Hi, welcome to day 12 of the paragraph writing strategy. Yesterday we began learning about detailed sentences. We talked about the definitions for detailed sentences and the two types of detailed sentences. Today we're going to talk about the 5 requirements for a good detailed sentence. So there are going to be 5 of them. The first one is each detailed sentence must contain related information. So when you had those boxcars that we were talking about, we had the engine that was the topic sentence yesterday, and then we had the boxcars that was each detail. You're going to want to make sure that those all go together. So let's think of an idea here. Let's think of animals that we have in our backyard. And what comes to mind quickly for me, because they were chirping this morning, is birds come to our bird feeder each day. That could be a sentence about animals in our backyard. My dog likes to go outside and be in the backyard, so that would be something I would definitely want to write about a detail. I wouldn't be picking zoo animals because zoo animals are not in my area unless I go to a zoo, which is about an hour and a half away. We wouldn't want to include zoo animals in this, but we could include like rabbits and squirrels that decide to show up, which happens frequently in my backyard. So we could bring up those types of animals, and that would definitely be related to our topic sentence. The second requirement is to make sure that it's a logical sequence with the other sentences. And there are actually 5 different kinds of sequences you can use to hook together your details. The first one is size sequence. Size sequence is used when some of the main points or details are larger or smaller than others. For example, when I write about the animals in my backyard, the animals are all different sizes. I can write about the smallest one first, then about the medium-sized animal, and finally about the largest. Or I can write about the largest and then the medium-sized animal and finally the smallest. It's up to the writer. So in size sequence, make sure that you use that when the details to be covered in your paragraph are objects that can be related to each other by size. The next one is time sequence. This sequence is used when the details of the paragraph are events or activities that occur before or after each other in time. For example, if you were writing a paragraph about how to make a fried egg, some of the steps in frying eggs might be completed before others can be started. For example, you must crack open the egg before you start frying it in the pan. And there are other events that would work in too, like I'm going on a vacation, events in history, stopping places on a trip, events in a story. So the next one is space sequence. This is the third one. And it's used when details are arranged in space in a certain order. For example, if you were to describe this room, you might choose to describe the items in an order in which they appear here. You could describe them from left to right or from right to left. And then the fourth one is importance sequence. You can use the importance sequence in a paragraph when certain details are more important than others, like when you're giving reasons for why you like something. You might decide to use an ascending importance sequence and start with the least important reason and end with the most important reason, or you might choose a descending importance sequence where you start with the most important reason and end with the least important reason. It's up to you. The last one is called chain link sequence. And what is a chain? What does a chain look like? A chain has many separate links that are hooked together. They are loose and flexible, but they are hooked together in some way. The chain link sequence works in the same way. It links together separate details that are not related throughout the 4 other types of relationships we talked about. So the chain link sequence is to be used when the other 4 sequences can't be used. Sometimes the details are related to each other in pairs. At other times, no particular order comes to mind. For example, you might be describing the advantages and disadvantages of going out for a basketball team. Here, the disadvantages and advantages are not related to each other in size, time, space, or importance. For another example, you might be describing examples of situations that upset you. You have several examples to describe, but the examples don't relate to each other. These kinds of situations call for the chain link sequence. So that is all of our sequences. So then the we're at the third one, correct? Yes, the third requirement for a detailed sentence is that the detailed sentence must include a transition if it introduces a new detail. So if you remember our train from yesterday, we had the topic sentence, which is the engine, and then we had a transition that took us to that next detail, and then we would have 3 sentences about that detail, and then we'd have another transition to the next detail, and then there were 2 sentences that they put in this paragraph. And then we transition again because we're hooking those together, and then we have another detail. And I need to, let's stop the video here because I have another document I want to show you. Okay, so I should be back, and let's move up to the top here. Here's our transitions chart, and it goes into all those sequences that we talked about. So here's some size transitions, and I will send this to you, by the way, so you don't have to be trying to write down all of these while I talk, because I'm not going to say all of them. But there are size transitions here. Most of those talk about largest or smallest, because that's the biggest thing about the size transitions. Time transitions, first, second, third, past, present, future, morning, noon, afternoon, evening, good transition things. So there are many ideas here. Time of day, yesterday, today, tomorrow. Space transitions go into those space words like behind, over, under, below, on the top of, to the right of. Importance transitions use important in most of those. Best is another thing, or the worst. And then chain link transitions are all kinds of transitions here. So if you look here, you got lots of options. Some of them that we probably use the most are the for example, another example. One, further, the last, in the first place. So there's lots of options there. And when we get to that concluding part, there's going to be transitions that we like to use for conclusions too. So to conclude, to in conclusion. So you'll have those that you can use too. So I'm going to stop our video here again. Okay, and we should be back at our next detail. So we're at detail number 4. Each detail sentence must be written with the same point of view as other sentences. So you're always going to want to use the same one. And here are our points of view, first, second, and third person. Like I said, if you pick first person, the whole paragraph needs to be in first person. First person is by the writer's point of view. And an example of that is, I went to the beach for a vacation with several friends. Second person point of view is by the reader's point of view. And this one uses the word you usually. So an example of this would be, you should be sure to pack light when going backpacking. Once again, you would be used. First person, you usually see the word I or we, because those work well with first person. Third person point of view is from the viewpoint of others. And an example of this is, the boys went to a movie and then to a dance. They enjoyed themselves. And let me find some other information about this one to give you. Third person can also be names of people. And it can also be objects or places or abstract concepts or an idea. So those are your 3 points of view that you can use. You pick just one for the paragraph. And then our 5th detail is each detail sentence must be written in the same tense as the other sentences. And just like point of view, the tense, which is usually the verb tense that we're dealing with, to gives us the indication of that, needs to all be the same. So we have past, present, or future that we can use for this. An example of past is yesterday the sun rose at 5:30 a.m. If you use that one, then you'd have to use past for the whole paragraph. Present, an example of present is the sun is rising early this morning. And future example of that, tomorrow we will watch the sunrise. So once again, you need to make sure that you use the same one for the whole sentence. And then I think we've got everything for today. All right, so today we went through the 5 requirements for a detailed sentence, and I'll be giving you some questions to go over about each of these, and please answer those, and then you're done with this lesson. Thank you.